Check, check, check. Check, check. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Artist Hub. So this is the 10th episode of Talk It Out, and we have with us a very special and a very amazing artist with us today. And to be honest, अगर मैं दिल से बोलूँ तो इनके साथ बात करने के लिए आज मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा मज़ा आएगा, because he is one of the person I personally I really happen to admire, and at the same time he has this brilliant skills of putting his artistic ideas on the canvas. जिस तरीके से वो चीज़ों को present करते हैं, it's absolutely mind blowing. So we have this amazing person with us. So we'll be joining with him in a couple of minutes. Hello.
How you doing? How you doing?
Hi. What's up? What's up? How are you?
Good. Good. Oh, I'm hearing an echo.
So, what's happening?
I'm hearing an echo.
Yeah. Right now? Okay. Yes. Better now? Oh.
Let's see. Yeah, better.
Okay. So, how are you? This is such an honor for me to talk to you all of a sudden. And I don't know, you might feel I'm buttering you or so, but I've been following your painting since quite a lot of time. It's been like almost 1.5 years that I've been following you, and it's a matter of real honor for me to talk to you.
It's a pleasure.
Hi. Thank you so much. So, what's your exact name actually? It's NFN Kalyan. What does it exactly stand for?
NFN stands for no first name. I legally just have one name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so NFN is no first name Kalyan, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So how did you get into painting and everything in the first place?
I got into painting when I was very young. I started painting. I think 2-3 years old, and I continued that through high school, and then I stopped, and then I became a professional artist in my 20s. But then about 3 or 4 years ago, I decided to take up paint. Previously I'd been doing sculpture and things like that, but I decided to take up paint as my primary mode of expression. So it was a long evolving thing.
Okay, so you've been into all these artistic stuff right since childhood.
Okay.
Yeah. Better now?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of network issues. We recently got hit by a cyclone. So since then there have been a lot of problems. Yeah, so I don't know if you're up with the Indian weather updates, but Mumbai area recently got hit with a cyclone a couple of weeks ago. So since then we've been having broken networks and a lot of stuff.
I see.
So Kalyan, so who was the mastermind behind naming you Kalyan? Because Kalyan technically in Hindi means progress. Yeah, evolve, a change.
My mom.
So how did that come into picture?
I think my mother probably had that idea.
Okay.
My dad is from India. My mom is from the States, but she's fluent in Hindi. I think she's the one who named me.
Okay. So how does mythology and everything get into check? Now you're loading, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. You hear me? Okay.
Yeah. Fine. So like if we observe your paintings, there are a lot of pop culture references along with mythology.
Right.
So what amount of study do you invest in both of these? Pop culture, I'd say that rather we'll pick up as and when we move ahead. But Indian mythology and any mythology, as a matter of fact, requires a lot of investment. Because if you happen to draw something wrong, or not wrong, but something that is not widely accepted, reasons are that they might backfire, people might not accept it and everything. So what is the preparation that you go behind it?
Well, I'll answer that question in two parts. First, the mythology I started looking at when I was very young, and I was homeschooled when I was young too. So I was reading all these different texts. That was part of my schooling in elementary school.
Right.
And as I've gotten older, I've continued that interest. But then, as far as representing things incorrectly, that doesn't concern me as much. There's certain elements which I try to always represent correctly depending on the subject matter. But then, as you can see clearly with some pieces, there's no attention to what the accepted narrative should be. Because I think that the important idea in these mythologies and in these stories is the ideas. When you stick too closely to the story, sometimes you can miss what the point of it was. So although my art isn't always about what the point of it is, it incorporates what the point of the story is to make a different point. So I don't having exact. In fact, I get a lot of comments saying, "Oh, you know, this is not correct." And I know that that's not the point. So
right. Okay. So you just mentioned that reading mythology was a part of your elementary studies.
Yes.
So this is just like out of curiosity. So like US has this mythological part as a part of the academic curriculum, right?
No,
Do you guys have that?
No, I was homeschooled as a boy. So my mother, my mother would decide what I was going to. My dad would teach me mathematics, but for everything else, my mother would decide what I would be learning. Yeah.
So as a child, what was your favorite subject exactly?
Oh. Maybe art.
I know it's a very tough question.
Yeah, I enjoyed reading history. I like history. I like mythologies. The mythologies and history are the two things that carry on with me to this day. I still think about them a lot, read a lot. Yeah, so probably those two. Okay,
so since I don't know how many times we'll ever come face to face, and I'll take this time to completely share my experience with you. I am myself a history and geography teacher. I teach students of 9th and 10th grade. So I've always been into history and mythology myself. So when I was searching for some ancient paintings, that is when I came across your paintings here.
I see.
And that was the first time I was like, how can somebody integrate these two completely different and varied topics together? So where did that idea come from of mixing two different genres together? Like you have one of the paintings which I particularly happen to love is where you have having Thanos behind, then you have the Bhagavad Gita ka Arjun and Krishna in front of you, and then you have Jesus carrying a dinosaur right next to it. So it's like Jurassic, it's like Steven Spielberg along with Russo brothers, and you have Krishna all together.
Right.
So how does that come from?
I started the mixing of things early after becoming a professional artist. The first piece I did was a self-portrait. And the second thing I did was a mixture of Hindu and Christian mythology put together. It just happened naturally. It wasn't. There was no thought behind it. And from there it evolved. I did a version of the Last Supper with Hindu mythology, with the universal form instead of Jesus and the disciples. And it moved from there. And then I gave that up for a while. I moved on to other things, but the idea of mythology continued to come back into my thought process because, as I was saying, of the ideas that are contained in mythology. But when you look at, of course, Marvel and everything is pretty light stuff. But when you look at the basic concepts they're dealing with, my basic ideas are to comment on the state of the world today, the state of humanity, and the essential nature of people as it has evolved over time. And these, for example, in the case of Thanos, that's his primary concern, is the state of the universe, that there's overpopulation and so on. And it's very pertinent. Clearly they made the movie because it's very pertinent to the issues we're dealing with today. And so when you juxtapose that simple concept that goes through those movies with something a little more deep and complex and mix all these things together, then maybe you're able to say something that the viewer can get more out of. So that's where that comes from, is the idea that, okay, if we can put these things together, then people start thinking about today, themselves.
The things that are actually supposed to be thought of.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That was something very amazing which I was looking forward to, and in the comments we already have one person commenting that was exactly something even he wanted to ask you. So I hope you got the answer. My second question, that is basically like this might sound like a very stupid question, but like how much time does it take for you to finish one particular portrait or one painting?
It depends on size, but it's between, I would say, 2 weeks for small things, and then months.
Okay.
I think I did one that's 36 feet wide, and that one was about 10 months, 11 months.
10 months for one painting.
Yeah.
So I think that is one very important message everyone should take. Like no other art form, like none of the art forms are as easy as it seems.
No.
So you need to completely get into it, and you need to invest that time. So Kalyan, I'll share this one thing with you that usually we have with Indians. Like since you mentioned you have an Indian parenting as well. The art forms as a profession is not considered very, very fruitful in India, or at least as how the scenario is right now. So and especially things like painting and sculpting and everything.
Yeah.
Like even if we talk about the performing arts like dancing or singing, they are somewhere given sort of importance because you tend to get that fame with it.
Yeah.
But I think you will agree the painters or the sculptors or rather editors and all, they do not get that much of a fame that you're supposed to get, because the painting and all, they go behind the stage. Only the painting comes forward when you're presenting it. So did you face any opposition or any denial from your house or family when you started your journey with painting?
No. I've mentioned this before. My father is a mathematician. And when he decided to pursue a PhD in mathematics, before his teacher would write him a recommendation, he said, you have to ask my grandfather, you have to ask your father, to my dad, because mathematics was viewed as something, pure mathematics is viewed as something that is similar. It's a fruitless industry. You go into it and mathematics does not pay well and so on. But even my grandfather said, no, do math, whatever, it's fine. And that kind of acceptance of that academic background actually helped me they support my art from that perspective, that it is a valuable academic field.
Wow.
Yeah.
Academics, wow.
Yeah.
So this is something very nice to know, because arts, like in India, if I'll explain, like have you ever been to India?
Yeah.
Let me just ask that first.
The last time I went, I'm 38 now. The last time I went, I was, I think 13. But when I was very young, I lived in India, 4, 5, 6 there. I lived in Bangalore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bangalore. Okay. So you have not been a part of Indian schooling, right?
No.
So in Indian schooling, we have arts and crafts only till 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
And that too as an extra subject where it is just graded. Like it's not even counted for your actual percentage or for the promotion to the next standard. And in 9th and 10th standard, it is completely dropped off. That is, you mean to pursue only your academic subjects that cover your social, humanities, science and mathematics. So there is this situation in India where people are not readily accepting the artists, especially the painters, sculptors, people who do sketching, doodling and everything. So it is only those people who pursue it as a part-time or pursue it other than academics who are into this field right now. So if anyone would want to start painting, or anyone who would see their future as a future painter, what should they look forward to? Like what should be the do's and don'ts as per your experience?
I think in any country, and maybe even more so in India because of these circumstances, a career in fine art is a grueling, difficult prospect. Because generally speaking, even if it's accepted like in the United States as a way of becoming successful, it's actually extremely difficult. Maybe a tiny percentage of people make any kind of real money doing it. That being said, the value of art is in communicating, communication. So you can communicate a variety of things, but in general, if you pursue some sort of universal truth in your work, then what you've done is actually, in a way, as important as any other vocation. So I would say go into it for the love of doing it, and and then from there try to pursue some sort of truth. If you do it for any other reason, then you're gonna fail no matter what, both financially and as an artist. So you must just, if you love it and it's something you feel you're compelled to do, regardless of your culture, you must just do it. Because if you look throughout the history of India, all these great sculptures and paintings and tapestries and everything, none of those things would have been done if this attitude had been taken throughout history. But these things live on as important things to consider even now. We look at something made 3,000 years ago, and we can think about that time and what this meant. So what you make today will be viewed that same way if we're fortunate. So you have to look at it that way.
Okay, so we have two questions from one of our audience. So the question is, could you please share some insights on the imperative presence of digital art for traditional mindsets? The question is from Mithun Gugan.
What is the exact question? Can you please answer for the digital art?
The question is your insights on digital art. Yeah.
Any form of communication has value, and that's it. That's the end of that discussion. So if you feel that you can communicate using digital art and it comes across, whether it be abstractly or logically or whatever, but there is actual communication happening, then the digital art is the way to go. That's the short answer.
So as Kalyan mentioned already, so it's the communication becomes important. What are your thoughts or whatever process that you're going through? It has to be communicated via your art. Am I correct?
Yeah, and those things can be abstract. I think if you try to apply too much logic to your work, then it's going to fail anyways. You should just write it out then, as prose. But when you're able to create art, then you're able to create. I always say if you're trying to describe things that you don't understand, so let's say you're trying to describe God, and that's a very large thing to understand, right? The concept. Then you write it, and maybe it doesn't seem right, but you create it, and you say, yeah, that's what it is. You don't know what it is, but that's what it is. So you have to have those abstractions in your work.
Okay, brilliant. One more question coming up from Sangha Govind. He admires your artwork a lot. So he just wanted to know that do you receive any negative comments on your artwork? And if at all, if you receive, like how do you deal with them?
I don't pay very much attention to praise or negativity. I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do. And if I allow those things to affect me too much, then... So I pay no attention. People say, that's great. I say, thank you. And if they say that's terrible, I say, oh, okay, great. That's fine.
Okay, it's okay, fine. So like, on a similar note, this is something that even I want to ask. For an artist, what I personally feel, I'll be happy to correct myself if I'm wrong. The state of mind when he's making his art form, like when he's creating something, becomes very, very important. So does the regular routine life, because you mentioned like one of your paintings took 10 months.
Yeah.
And for any human through those 10 months ka journey, he'll go through a lot of ups and downs. Be it financial, be it something related to his family, or be it something related to his own personal life. There are a lot of ups and downs. So how does that emotional, upscaling and downscaling affect your artwork over a period of time?
I think there's two things. There's allowing yourself to have those feelings. So if you're unhappy about something, then just don't do it that day. And two, having discipline to know it's enough. I have to now work on it. So it's a balance of those two things within yourself. So.
Okay, so maintaining the balance between both is very important.
Yeah.
That was a brilliant answer. So we have one more question. The question is like, would you call your art form surrealism? Would you label it as surrealism?
I often see that label, but I don't view my art as surreal. I don't quite understand. I mean, I know what surrealism is, to see Salvador Dali and all these, and I understand the meaning of the word, but I don't quite see how it applies to my work. I could see how one could think that, but I don't view it that way.
Okay, so a couple of more questions from the audience. How did you land upon the jewelry job before becoming an artist? And what caused you to change your path and get into artistic things?
That was just a job that I was looking for a job, and I got that job. There was no deep meaning behind that particular work.
So I think everybody needs to understand that, like along with your passion, if at all you need to work, you need to get your work done as well. Because if I'm not an artist, before he becomes an established artist, he needs to pay their bills. He needs to pay his bills.
Yeah.
So this is my question. So is it wrong for an artist to, for a temporary period of time, leave his art form and get into some proper job so that he can manage his finances and everything?
No, I don't think
so.
So
Does
at
it
all.
affect it?
No, in fact, I don't think that's wrong at all. It depends on the artist. I know an artist in California who's basically homeless, and he makes his art, and that's how he lives. But is able to get food and stuff. He's decided to dedicate himself entirely to the form. But I also understand if somebody gets a job, life is life. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the last question for the time being, do you think human intuition is something that is more than what we think it is? It's a very philosophical question from Gokka Maka _001.
I think human intuition is one of the most important elements of being a human being, because we understand almost nothing. So then everything we experience has to be filtered through ourselves, and in doing that, there has to be some reckoning of self. What am I in relation to the universe? And all these types of existential questions, if you ask them on a daily basis, then you have some kind of guidance. But it's still only guided by intuition. That's all you have. We do not know our relationship to one another. It's very difficult to understand our relationship to ourselves. It's hard to understand our relationship to a pencil. How, so intuition guides everything. It is the only thing. If you are a mathematician or a physicist or something, then maybe you don't. But even still, in those sciences, if you look at the most creative minds, how did they get there? Through some intuition. They said this, and then they looked in that direction. So even the most logical things, intuition is the guide. That's all there is. That's it.
So I think the person who asked the question, that was the answer from Kalyan, and I think that would be something like a guiding message for everyone who would want to pursue arts as a profession. So coming to something, on an intrapersonal note, like let's chill out some time, and a lot of technical questions right away, and you might get bored. So like, are you aware of the Indian art forms? Like, how well connected are you with the Indian culture exactly?
I'm aware of various traditional painting techniques and printmaking techniques. That's something that's interested me a lot. And I'm aware of sculpture, but I don't look at it much. I know something about it. But for me, I've been interested in traditional printmaking and painting techniques, especially painting on cloth. Those are things that I've...
So, like for normal people like me, it's like painting becomes something that you follow as a hobby. It's a pastime. Like whenever you're free from your complete work, you tend to free yourself, like keep yourself relaxed. You paint. That's what it is for most of us Indians. But since you are into painting professionally, what do you do for your pastime? Like, what do you do for your leisure time?
Well, I have my family, and I spend a lot of time with them. And that's probably my favorite thing to do. But then I think I'm notorious, especially my family, for watching movies. I watch a lot of movies. I like movies a lot. So, yeah.
Okay, so does movie inspire you sometime? Like, do the movies give you some insights with respect to your paintings at times?
What interests me about movies is construction. I'm interested in how the director approached the construction of the film. So that more than story and more than performance, I'm interested in construction. I want to know how things are made, because I think when you look at how things are made, you can apply those same rules or same intuitions, or however you want to phrase it. You can apply those same things to any art form. So that's why when I watch movies, I always think that's what I'm thinking about.
So coming back, there's this very nice question. Do you feel estranged between you and the majority of the society? That's a wonderful question to ask.
I think if it's Indian society, I don't feel much a part of it at all anymore. I mean, I do feel a familial relationship, because I relate greatly to the perspective. The perspective of Indians as opposed to the perspective of the West is vastly different. And I relate more to the perspective of Indians, although I grew up in the West. But in terms of culture at large, the whole world, yeah, I pretty much feel like I'm on my own. I have my family, and that's it. That's it. I feel on my own. Yeah.
Okay. So, suppose if someone starts painting today. Yeah, this is once again a very cliche and very stupid question, but I would just want to know your idea behind it, right? If someone starts painting today, what would you define that he should spend at least this minimum average number of hours or average number of days or weeks to get his craft to a scale where he can say, yes, I am a good painter, at least a good painter?
I think questions like that are very difficult. I know, what's his name? Malcolm Gladwell says you have to spend 10,000 hours on whatever your craft is. Like, there's these numbers.
Yes, yes.
But I don't believe in those types of numbers. For me, expression is the key. So if you look at a cave painting, you need very little practice to do something like that. But the expression was key, and the expression has lived on, and we're able to gain things from it. And when you look at a child, sometimes they're able to tell great truth, and they have had very little experience doing any kind of art because they're so young. But there's great truth in their paintings. Sometimes to somebody who doesn't get along with a child that doesn't like their father, they'll show themselves holding their mother's hand and the father standing off to the side. They did it unconsciously. There's some great truth in that, though. So I think the technical skill, it gives you a greater vocabulary. But you can say amazing things with just the vocabulary of a child. It's not necessary to go beyond. So for me, it's just about being able to express what is in you. For however long you need to practice to do that, but a person may be able to just sit down and draw stick figures, and there's some beauty in there to begin with. That soul exists to do that. So there is no clear answer.
Okay, that's a beautiful answer and some real love shower and showers of blessings for you. I had a friend messaging me that he had spoken to you once quite long back, and he mentioned that you are one of the most humblest being that he ever met. So he was very, very thankful to meet you. And also we have one more guy, Gomito Music, who says he's a musician, but you have been a major inspiration for him. Thanks for your art. So all the love to Kalyan. So, yeah, coming to my next point, like I think you will definitely agree, since you're following your painting professionally as a professional artist, commercializing your art becomes important at some point of time, because we have seen cases where people are so much engrossed into their art form that they forget to market it or commercialize it or channel it in a way where they can earn something.
Yeah.
So maybe there was a time when your art form was everything and people used to just pay you for having a look at your art form. But today, like skills like marketing, skills like management and client requirement, everything becomes very important.
Yeah.
So how does one learn that? Because what I feel is arts in today's world has become something very, very generic. There are two types of people, either who are completely engrossed into it, and there are people who are not engrossed into it.
Yeah.
Those who are engrossed, they pretty well are aware of all those skills, all those extracurricular skills that are required.
Yeah.
But the other half, which is the majority, they are somewhere, lacking behind. So what would you suggest? How would an artist commercialize his art form?
I think there's two parts to this answer. The first is in the creation of the work. A big mistake many artists make now in recent times is big, and I think it started by mistake with Warhol and those types, where they were making work for ideas, but then it was mistaken as just commercialized work. But now it's got to the point where artists in the actual construction of the work are trying to predict what the reaction of the viewer will be and to make work for the viewer.
Okay.
So they say, oh, people are going to love this. So it's like making pop music. The whole purpose of it is to sell a lot of records. It's not to make a great song or to make beautiful ideas. It's to sell a record. And there could be a good, beautiful record, but the primary concern is to sell music. and fine art has become the same way for many fine artists. I would argue that in the construction of your work, when you're actually making it, do not think too much about those things. Don't worry about commercialization. Don't worry about marketing. Don't worry about anything. The one thing you can worry about is communication. If you feel like your work is too dense and nobody will be able to understand it, then maybe nobody will care that it exists. But that is not even necessarily true, because if you look at the high levels of the art world, you'll see very strange things that are very difficult to understand being sold. So just make the things that are true to you. Now, the second level of that is, how do you then, once you've made something, you have let's call it then a product. Your product is fine art. How do you get it out to the world? I think there's a lot of forms to do that. Every artist must find their own way. It depends on the type of work that you make and so on. Maybe for some, they can just post it on Instagram and they'll have an audience that will buy it from them. There's various websites. Personally, the way I've tried to approach it from the beginning was to have a separate person do all those things. So I do not have to worry about it. And that is the ideal, I think, for any artist or for any creator of anything, to be able to make and not have to worry about the selling. So, but definitely the key is when you're making things, don't worry about the marketing in the construction. That's where things start going awry.
So that comes the afterwards, like that is the post-production thing that you need to worry about. You make
what you make, and then you think, how do I get this to the world? Yeah.
Wow. So that was very nice of you, and like we'll chill out a bit. Okay. You mentioned you watch a lot of movies, right?
Yeah.
So this is something like a rapid fire. Right? Don't mind my nonsense. This is something that I do with all my audience.
Okay.
So since you are into a lot of mythology as well and a lot of movies as well, what kind of movies? Hollywood, Bollywood, or is it a mix or something? What is it exactly?
I watch a lot of Hollywood movies. I don't watch a lot of Bollywood movies. I apologize. But I do watch films from any country. I watch a lot of Korean movies, French movies, Argentinian movies. Yeah. But I unfortunately do not watch a lot of Hindi language. I grew up watching them, and it almost turned me off to them because I could not handle listening to any singing or anything. I said, to hell with this. So that was a short.
I totally get your point. Even the Indian audience are feeling the same way these days. So I totally agree with your feeling. The Bollywood movies today is a lot of turn off. It's a kind of turn off for people. So absolutely fine. So we'll stick to Hollywood movies.
Okay.
So the rapid fire round goes like this. This entire segment is called Pani with VJ. So Pani means water, and VJ is Michael. So it's basically a small water break. So what I'll do is I'll give you some mythological references, and whichever movie first comes to your mind, you need to label that.
Okay.
Sounds fine?
All right.
So you are into Indian mythology and the Roman Catholic mythology, right? This is what our basic will be. Yeah. Okay. So if we can make Mahabharata, the entire story of Mahabharata, into an English movie, what would it be like?
Oh.
What would you compare it with? Which movie would you compare it with?
Which movie would I compare it to? Oh my goodness.
Something
that was an epic. Maybe, I don't know. Nothing can touch it because of the subtlety of it. I'll give you a strange answer to that question, because I was just thinking about it before we went on. I would compare it to the television show The Wire, because The Wire is able to describe a giant system, and yet we have interest in all the characters of the system, but it's not about right or wrong. It's about everybody performing their function within that. So I would compare it to The Wire. Yeah.
Okay. So if you were given a chance to remake the Mahabharata in Hollywood, who would you cast Lord Krishna as?
It would be CG. I'm not going to even touch that. So you have to be computer generated.
I don't know. Okay, so you're staying away from the controversial question.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very smart move. So if something like, I'll twist the question.
Okay.
So if you were given a chance to play a role of your favorite mythological character, who would it be and why?
Oh, I think I'm actually gonna move. Oh, I loved Arjun growing up, but I don't think I'd be him.
Okay. Okay.
I think I'd be Ulysses or Odysseus from the Odyssey.
Okay.
That's who I'd be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any specific reasons why?
My favorites growing up. So I'd be him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to cast someone as Judas, I think this is a non-controversial question. Who would it be? Like, not with their controversies in their personal life, but just from picturistic perspective.
Colin Farrell. The actor
Okay. And Jesus?
What's that?
Jesus?
Oh, cast somebody as Jesus. Oh, who would I cast as Jesus? Young Marlon Brando.
Okay, so this is a very specific answer, and I'd love to picture that guy as Jesus. But any specific reasons why?
I think he's one of the greatest actors to ever live, and I tried to think of somebody who could actually do that. And he may not look the way we think Jesus looked, but he could do it. Young Marlon Brando. 1950s Marlon Brando.
1950s wala. Okay. So, talking about your paintings once again, you're not just been into mythology, is what I felt, because a lot of paintings show a lot of war culture as well, because one of your paintings described the war scenario, the World War scenario. Am I correct? You tried to portray World War with... Okay.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah. So, am I audible now? Is it clear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So, when you're picturing World War, like, was it some form of, what do you say, the background check that you did before picturizing, before painting the World War, or was it just the story that you knew and you wanted to paint a picture? How does it work? Because compared to mythology, we have a lot of on-hand information with respect to world wars. We have completely documented stuff with us. So when you want to paint some modern historical facts, how does that work?
I am very interested in almost everything. Anything that I can read, and so these things go into me. And then my inspiration comes from just looking at the state of the world. I look around, just an interaction at a gas station or anything, you see the way human beings are, whether it be good or bad. And from that, you get these feelings about the trajectory that humanity is going to go in. And then after that, all the things that I've taken in come out. And how they come out is a mystery to me. But I don't know if that answers your question. So I don't know if the way of portraying it is any different than any other subject matter. I try to use this as little as possible. I find that the more I use my mind, the work actually becomes more limited, because the mind is your own thoughts are very limited. Once you try to express what's in your heart as a human being, a lot of times you find shallow. Nothing but the words cannot express what that is. So I try to just use right now.
Yes, I definitely got it. So that was a beautiful answer once again, and I think this is something very common in all the artists that I've been talking to these days, because there is one best thing that I love about all the artists is the artists, they have a very unique and different process thinking. It's not like something very mechanical or logic based. It's something like I felt it and I just did that. So that is one very nice thing I admire about everyone. So once again, a last question. Are you aware of this TV series called as Sherlock?
Yes.
The BBC one, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch.
I have not seen it, but I know of it, yeah.
Okay, so if you have read the Sherlock Holmes, the books, and if you'll compare the series, it's like a modern day adaptation of the same books.
Okay.
So what they did is they have adapted the entire story in present day London,
right.
2011, 12, 13, and they have tried to modernize the entire story.
Okay.
So once again, a very strange question. If you were given a chance to modernize some part of mythology, which story would you want to see on a live basis in the modern era?
Oh, the Mahabharata. Yeah, that.
Mahabharata once again.
100%.
So
that's my all-time favorite.
Okay, high five virtual, because I am personally also completely into Mahabharata, and what I personally feel is it's one of the most complex stories that humankind could have ever come across.
Yes.
So, what is your interest? Like, what generates your interest into Mahabharata so much?
I think,
as compared to other.
I think if
mythology,
my current interest is the same as what you said, that it's such a complex and deep story with so many facets. But I think the reason that I emotionally am more attached to it than others is because as a young boy, that's what I was reading. I can remember reading it at 4, 5, 6 years old. You know, children's versions, children's stories, comic books of the story, all these different things. And then as I grew up, then I still read the story. I remember the story, but then it's so much more rich when you read an adult version of it. So that's why I have that emotional connection. Yeah.
Okay. So coming to the last question of the session, I hope you're not bored.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So coming to the last question, this is something more of a generic question that relates to everyone. A lot of things are happening these days, especially since 2020 started.
Yeah.
Since Australian fire, since things happening in the US right now, since the COVID-19, India got hit by a earthquake and a cyclone as well, and a lot of negativity, something that is passing on. We are not actually sure what exactly is happening, or is it really the end of the world or something. But if at all, as an artist, you are given a chance to remove one thing off the road, like you can just remove one thing and completely make the world better.
Yeah.
What would it be?
My view on the world is that everything is so interconnected, and that not any one thing is necessarily has a moral value to it. That everything has a balance to it. That for me to remove one thing, I almost can't conceive of it. Like I could say, oh, we want to remove all racism, which would be wonderful, right? Then all people look at each other just as a human being. It doesn't matter. You're just you. I like you or I don't like you based on you. So maybe that.
Yeah.
Because that's very simple. Let's just take that away. Let's take away.
Okay.
Let's take away those types of bias where we're not able to look at a human being as a human being. But see, then if you remove that, then there will be no more heroes or devils. There would be neither.
Wow. So basically, you need some negativity to balance the positive side as well.
That's the way we see the world in our limited view. If we were to remove that type of bias, then you know, we would look at every person. Well, I don't know. He was just a person. They were complicated. That would be the answer to everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the future prospects of future plans for Kalyan?
Oh, well, something I've been talking about a bit lately is I'm going to, before I was thinking I would stop painting entirely after the summer, but now I think I'm just going to slow down almost to a full halt and focus on other forms of art for a time. I'm not sure how long, but I think about, I was mentioning this to somebody the other day. There's a comedian, Louis C.K., and he got in some controversy a few years ago, but I'm not talking about that. Before that, he was famous for every year coming out with a new comedy special with entirely new material. Okay. So within the span of a year, he would have to find 1 hour worth of things to make people laugh, which is more difficult than you would think. Because I don't know if you're familiar with the form, but many comedians spend 10 years building a good hour and a half of material. But he would do it every year. Right. And that would be, and what he said was, at the end of the year, he'd do that final show, and then he'd leave, and he'd have this void inside himself, this fear, shit, how the hell do I make them laugh tomorrow? He had no idea. And he said that feeling of fear actually makes you more creative. You have to do something. So I've been doing all this painting, but it's not, I've been doing painting, and I have a specific way of approaching painting, but that's not my only way of thinking about the world. So I'm thinking if I stop painting and I have that void, what the hell am I going to do? Something interesting will happen to fill that void, and I'll make something interesting. So in August, I maybe will do maybe one small painting every once in a while. But after that, and after August, then I'm going to do something else. And I'm thinking about doing blockchain. So.
Blockchain.
Yeah. Blockchain-based art.
Okay, so blockchain-based art. Okay, fine. So that's something very unique which you mentioned, because artists are always under that impression, that they need to create content, they need to keep on, satisfying the audience and everything.
Yeah.
This was one very good thing that you mentioned, that there is this void inside every artist and they need to keep on re-energizing it or refilling it with something. So that was so amazing. Yeah, you've got something to say? Sorry, I cut you in between.
No, yeah. What you said gave me a thought, and I've said this before, so I apologize if somebody's heard this. But I always think about musicians, and the best musicians continue to evolve over time because their voice is inside of them. There's heart in there, and it comes out. But if you look at some, like I'll give you an example of, say, the Rolling Stones or something like that. I really don't want to listen to any Rolling Stones music that happened after 1975, but yet they still make music today, much after that. And I think it's because when they were young, they did not know what they were doing. And in that void, like I said, in that void that was there, they said, oh, let's just do, what about this? And they were listening to all these different kinds of, oh, we could try this. And then they started to learn their craft. And it turns out that they didn't want to try to go off the beaten path. They could have made an opera record, or they could have done anything with their position, but they did not do that. They continued to make 3-minute rock songs, which they knew how to do. By 1975, they had 15 years experience, but they just continued to do it. And then the stagnation sets in. So I don't want to, I don't think if I continue doing paint, stagnation would set in that way. But for the time being, I want to create that void where something else must happen. And people may dislike it, but you cannot create for an audience, because I didn't know anybody would like the paintings. I didn't know anybody would like my sculptures. You cannot know these things. So you have to create that void where it's, again, you're making things for yourself. So.
Oh. Wow. So I think this is one lesson that everybody should take from this conversation, that experimenting with yourself and with your artistic mindset is important. Yeah. Otherwise, over a period of time, you might get stagnant. Wow, that was such an amazing answer. And I think a lot of people who will be watching this later, because we'll be posting the small snippets of your talks. And this was much like I am myself attending a TED talk by Kalyan himself. So that is a huge honor for me. Thank you so much, Kalyan, for spending your time. I hope we did not bother you or bug you very much. And I hope you did not get bored for the last 1 hour.
No, actually, I was thinking you have wonderful energy. It's great to talk to you. I really enjoyed this.
Wow. That was something very, sweet. Thank you so much. And I'd love to keep in touch with you. And if at all, anytime you come to India, do let us know. We'd be happy to receive you and give you an India tour. For sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
All right.
Take care and all the best.
Good talking to you.
Keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, me too. Bye-bye. So what's up, people? That was NFN Kalyan, and a great mystery solved here. NFN actually stands for no first name Kalyan. That is, he does not have any first name. His art form is what defines him. And as you guys saw, this was one of the most humblest, sweetest person that I ever spoke to, and a lot of insights with respect to painting and art forms that came across. Blackfish, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your comments. And yes, Gokamoka_001. Yes, we have already recorded this and we'll be posting the complete talk pretty soon. And everyone who's here, thank you so much for coming up. This was Talk It Out with VJ, episode 10. And we have been covering a lot of artists since a couple of weeks. And we'll be coming up with season 2 very soon. And yeah, this was something that I personally enjoyed. Like, when you talk to an artist whom you admire a lot, it is a really different feeling altogether. And I'm very happy that I spent my weekend very, very well. So in the meanwhile, everybody please take care, stay safe, stay healthy, stay inside. Ready? I don't know what shit is happening outside, but other than that, everybody, you guys keep rocking, stay safe, enjoy. Khana wana kha lo अच्छे से. If people are not from India, then please do have your respective lunch, dinner, breakfast, or whatever you have right now. And yes, do subscribe to Artist Hub because we'll be having many more amazing artists coming up, sharing their insights and sharing their ideas with you all. So till then, everybody, please tata, bye-bye, take care, VJE Bhava, and signing off. Bye-bye.